Hi everyone, welcome to Luna La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Faz.
And I'm Fee.
Hi Fee.
didn't even bother trying to take that one. And I'm Rich.
You sounded so sad about going back to being rich.
Fine.
You do get to wear brighter clothes when you're me.
He's wearing a lovely bright. Is this the Japanese
yeah,
baseball,
the baseball
top? Yeah, cool.
Go
Yeah.
Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Everyone's a big SoftBank Hawks fan. Is that the sponsor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Cool. That's
Sound
fine.
like my dad then. Hi, Dad.
Yeah, Mr. Horsefield. Hi. Yeah, where were we? Anyway, hi. So this is the second promised
Threatened.
Yeah, threatened probably. Yeah, podcast of our Uncharted series, the full playthrough. Well, I mean, for me personally, I've gone wire to wire. Fee picks and chooses which games she plays, and Rich just decides when he's played them or not.
Yeah.
Really. So anyway, but yeah, here we are.
I turn up,
And here we are. So hopefully you enjoyed the last podcast and the in-depth dive into the Nathan Drake collection. We have reserved this one for Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy. So I said on the start of the last podcast at some point that I was like, oh, Lost Legacy, like Uncharted 4.5-ish, maybe. And I think it was actually originally designed that way as well. How do you guys see it? Do you see it as a game within its own right? I mean, it's as long as Uncharted 1, so it's not as if it's short.
No. I mean, for me, I guess it plays close enough to a fair bit of Uncharted 4 that in my head, I always equated it to like the expansion packs you could get for PC games when I was a kid. So, I mean, a generous one, a hefty one, I'll give you that. But yeah, I've always kind of mentally had it pegged as Uncharted 4.5 rather than Uncharted 5.
What was it on sale as a full-priced game? Can anyone remember? I didn't have a PlayStation 4 at the time, so...
You know what? I can't remember either.
No.
I don't know, I never paid for it.
I think it might have been possibly slightly discounted.
Yeah.
But not radically so.
Fair enough. Fee, you got any opinions on whether you would say it's a full... I mean, it's the first one that you played, wasn't it? You said...
Yeah, so I did experience it as a full game. Yeah, short, but not like noticeably short, but just like, I guess, compact.
Yeah.
Which wasn't unwelcome. And yeah, I think I don't remember feeling like there was a load of backstory I wasn't getting. Like, you know, there were references to people, but it sort of made sense later.
Yeah, for you,
like
I was
it's
asking
still,
about that.
well, no, it didn't matter. It wasn't like, hey, remember when we did that thing off screen in the earlier installment that you've definitely got to play. It was more like, you know, I think at one point she's like, oh yeah, I know you know the Drake brothers, and you know, there's a bit of an explanation about that and a bit of, oh, I'm not talking about it right now or whatever. And it doesn't matter if you don't know who they are. You kind of still get a character thing from like, oh, she's got a bit of a past with some fellow archaeology people. Are they archaeologists? What the hell are they?
Thieves.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Mercenaries.
we're among thieves, and a thief's end is what Uncharted 4 is called, isn't it? So they are, and it is weird because you, I guess, when you put yourself upon the characters and who they are, you kind of see yourself as a good guy, but no one, we've talked about this obviously in the last podcast, it's different, just
No one's
different
that
shades of
good.
grey, really, isn't it? You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, even in the end of Uncharted 4, when you kind of draw a little bit of a line under Drake's and Elena's story, that is, and you kind of go, were you the good guys, or were you just the
Most
people that got
successful.
away with it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, most successful, yeah.
And
The people that won Ludo.
But I mean, as for like calling it Uncharted 4.5 or 5 or what have you, like, I think as soon as you start moving away from numbered entries in a series, and if a series runs long enough, it's got to move away from them at some point, otherwise it gets ridiculous, right?
Fast 10.
Yeah. King of Fighters 13. But like, it kind of feels like it was also leaving the door open for other sort of spin-offs or like, you know, named entries, you know, the adventures of young Sully or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've always been kind of surprised. I mean, I guess considering how The Last of Us went and all that kind of stuff, I've always been it's not that much of a surprise. But I've always been kind of surprised that they haven't really gone back to it
Yeah,
and done
I'm shocked that
another.
we've not had another one. I mean, it's been what 8 years since the Lost Legacy came out.
Really?
Which is the longest it's been since there
Wow.
has been an Uncharted game since the series started. So
Yeah.
And again, maybe go back to that point we made in the previous podcast. Maybe it's not as commercially successful or viable nowadays as, say, remastering The Last of Us for the 19th time. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
true. Yeah.
so it might just be something that Naughty Dog. I mean, because they are working on a new game, aren't they? Which
the name of which totally escapes me, but has something that's definitely not a lightsaber in it.
Totally like interstellar-ish name. You know, one of those ones.
Intergalactic?
Yes, well done you.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is it?
Great, yeah.
Has no one made a game called Intergalactic yet?
Well,
Beastie Boys
well,
threatening to
yeah,
sue
I
or
was about to
something.
say, Intergalactic. So, should we start, which would make sense, obviously, at the start of Uncharted 4, we'll kind of get through, we'll do what we did last time, do a little bit of history, plot, and then notes, and just throw the shit at the wall and see how we get on.
Yep.
Cool. So, this one, it wasn't written by Amy Hennig, I don't believe, who wrote all the previous ones. So there was a bit of acrimony at Naughty Dog. She left the company, and sort of, I guess, almost midway through development of this. So it's actually got a bit of a difficult development cycle, which is interesting. The people who took over from, I guess, everybody that, sort of made the first three were Druckmann and Straley, who actually authored The Last of Us. So the people who did Uncharted 4 are The Last of Us people, really, rather than actually the Uncharted people in the end. And there was quite a big hard crunch to get it done. There was like sort of an 8-month period where they kind of scrapped a lot of what was already done. I think even Nolan North came out and said that there was loads of voice work done that was just completely canned, and it became a different game entirely. So it's interesting to know what maybe the first version was and what it has become. And certainly I think you do see that, not necessarily anywhere near at all, I guess, what I'd expect out of The Last of Us, but you kind of get a bit of maybe a grittier, longer game with more explanation around character. And
that does explain a lot.
Slowly, Nathan Drake starts to look a little bit more like Joel, over time. So for a plot, then again, I've because this game is obviously still quite recent, 9 years ago. We've done loads of games, since I guess that age that we almost tried to call retro on the Vita and things. So, but Nathan Drake, he's retired from treasure hunting with his wife at this point now, Elena Fisher. He's forced back into the game to basically find and recover the treasure of Henry Avery, who, funnily enough, he was the subject of the first ever recorded manhunt. Did you know that? Yeah.
No.
So I kind of did a bit of research around this and stuff. Cards on the table. I fucking love piracy. That is old piracy, not modern piracy. Honestly, anything with pirates is like times 10,000 multiplier for me. I don't know what it is. That's why Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I'm like, that's the one. Do you know what I mean? When you talk about, Yakuza, like a pirate, I'm like, yeah, that sounds immediately more interesting than anything else. I was quite happy to do a bit of research around it. And that turns out that he was the first person ever under the cosh of the British government and ships and things.
Is that the official way of putting it?
Yeah, probably. So basically, he has to go and try and find the treasure of Henry Avery to save the skin of his estranged brother, his older brother Sam, who's reappeared on the scene after you sort of see a little bit happening at the start of the game.
Like a 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, they both knocked doors together.
I don't talk about you ever, but it's so good to see you.
We've been commissioned for season 4, but we've got fuck all plot. What do we do?
Oh, brother.
A strange relative.
So the villains of the piece are, interestingly enough, Rafe Adler and Nadine Ross, who we'll come to in detail probably towards the Lost Legacy as well. Basically, he's just a rich businessman, effectively, and she's a paramilitary leader. And then in the background, Sully's just kind of playing Old Snake, like basically, just like stood there with his massive cigars, looking sexy as fuck, like just quipping away and just having the best time. And I am too, looking at him. You go from, and we'll talk about the globetrotting. There's it's weird because the game is longer, so therefore it doesn't feel like there's a lot of globetrotting, but you do hit a few different locations. So Panama, you start off like in a jail sort of situation, and then I think that Elena and Drake have settled in New Orleans. I think it is that they are. Yeah, and then you go to Italy for effective, but you wouldn't notice Italy because I think everything's kind of inside in that point. It's all So
you ever walk up to the door kind of thing.
It kind of gets wasted as a location, and like come to Italy, but actually doesn't actually fucking matter. And that level. We'll come back to this in a second, but plays very much Hitman-y, almost in a way, as we spoke about previously.
Yeah.
And then you go to Scotland for a bit, and then Madagascar, and then the mystical, not really real Libertalia, which is meant to be the place where all the pirates ended up, basically, in folklore and hid all their gold, etc. So, yeah, plenty of hopscotching around the globe. Right, I'll do this thing where I just kind of pile off. I've done a little bit. You guys have at it. Tell us whatever your thoughts and feelings around, Uncharted 4.
So,
A Thief's End.
And
I'll drink some beer.
I ended up on the PS5 version for this one.
Swank.
So yeah, you get some like snazzy stuff on the triggers, stuff like that, a bit of feedback and resistance and stuff like that, but nothing too fancy or ridiculous. There was no multiplayer in this version. There was multiplayer when it first came out, and I think that was where most of the supernatural bullshit got pushed.
Yeah.
Which
I've
personally,
seen the advertisement of that looking like
that.
Yeah.
Like I think that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like, so to my mind,
zombies, Call of Duty zombies.
Yeah, exactly. Like have it there, but off to one side in its own thing. Yeah, cool. That makes sense. I would hesitate to say anybody ever played it, and considering what you've said about the sales of the series and all that, I think I can understand why they didn't bother putting it in a re-release.
I did try and get on it as part of this, and it seems to just crash halfway through loading twice on the PS4.
Yeah,
so
I'm genuinely no idea how
don't-
active any of it
No.
is, and I only ever dipped my toe in it and was like, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah.
But kudos for trying it and all that kind of stuff.
It happened.
But to my mind, it means that Uncharted 4 feels a lot more grounded than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it for that. I was less sold on it at the time, but going back and playing it through this time, I'm a little bit warmer.
Did you go all the way through again this time?
Not all the way through, no. But enough to be like, no, I do prefer it this time round than first time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so there's a lot more like puzzles and brawling I found, or like opportunities for brawling. So like you're more likely to be given free rein on how you approach a situation, rather than just like an Uncharted 1, go into an area full of waist-high cover. Here you will go into an area that's kind of wide open with waist-high cover and things you can climb and grass you can hide in, and you can kind of approach it as you like. You can tag enemies, you can try and be stealthy. Kind of almost played a little bit, kind of reminded me of Splinter Cell Conviction.
Yeah, absolutely. I was
bit,
going to say Splinter Cell, later Splinter Cells, yeah.
And I kind of enjoy that, sort of being that kind of pantherish person just going around and taking things out, and then it getting noisy and you just having to deal with it.
Yeah, which it always does. Like, you think you're just going to be able to do it. And then...
Every time. But I kind of like that, and I like the fluidity of the motion. I like how, you've got the grappling hook and things like that, and it all kind of flows together quite nicely. Like there's a nice sense of movement to it.
Yeah.
I do think that, particularly going back and replaying like the Scotland bit, like I've got here, it's a very different pace to Uncharted 1, especially in terms of the story, and it feels more like we were saying about the original game. It didn't feel necessarily as assured. This time it feels confident that it has a story to tell. You're going to sit there long enough to hear it. But at the same time, there were a couple of bits, particularly in Scotland, where it seemed to start to drag a little bit, and you're like,
okay,
could we have maybe got to where we're going a little bit quicker, perhaps?
Yeah, there's a lot of interaction between Sam Nate, isn't there? Though you kind of like, you're
yeah,
like, yeah,
and it's
yeah,
yeah. There's flavour and there's self-indulgent, and I think Uncharted 4 did fall into the trap of being a little bit self-indulgent a couple of times, and I'm very aware that I'm on my own podcast saying that.
No.
So game recognizing game. But yeah, like on the whole, I like how it plays. I like how it hangs together. I like the fact that it tries to open things up, especially when you get the Jeep and things like that later on. But I do think that comes at the cost of them kind of relinquishing a bit of the control of the pace. And I think that shows. So, if you are comfortable riding that out, I think there's a lot here to sink your teeth into. It looks good. As you would hope it would. The stealth occasionally could be a little bit hit and miss. Like you think you're being nice and stealthy, and then you're just not. Like it's not a full-blooded stealth game. If you're playing Splinter Cell, those stealth mechanics are designed to be on point. Here, it's more of a casual stealth,
and that was almost
thing.
why I had like a bit of a note about the games that I compared this to in my head were the Assassin's Creed Black Flag situation, but that is almost like with all the platforming and the climbing. But I had Metal Gear Solid 5 and Hitman almost as like similar sort of things where you kind of get that little mini open world,
little sandbox,
sort of and you can eventually, if you get good enough. And I've seen runs of people do this where they're just sort of jumping from grass area to wall and just taking everybody down, like almost like Spider-Man-esque, with Drake. And that's not necessarily how you want to play the game, but he can get to that point where it's like, wow, look at that, that's cool. You can do it that way.
Yeah, and I think one of the bits that jumped out was like with the grappling hook and stuff like that. It's cool that it's in there, but it's kind of weird that nobody ever seems capable of holding the other end of it. Like there's plenty of times where they're going this round this kind of convoluted way of getting somewhere, as the series will do. But like you look at
broken half ladders are there in fucking Uncharted Land? Just like, so many broken half ladders.
But you look at it afterwards, you're just like, could you really not have just held the other end of this rope? Like, come on, Sam. Come on. I've seen you hang on a ledge for like 10 minutes. Are you honestly telling me you can't hang on to this rope?
That's the biggest Uncharted trope, actually, that's really like an Uncharted core mechanic, is like Nate will jump on a thing, or like somebody else will do, and it'll crumble, so he can't do that, so he has to go the long way around. And somebody else is sat there like, oh gosh, well, I'll just sit here.
Or they push a crate down to him.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
We'll come back to crates.
There's a lot of that. I mean, those crates hold up well, considering how old they must be, and the fact that we're just throwing them off of small cliffs in this world.
Okay, well, let's do crates. Let's do crates. There's a bit, isn't there? There's bits where like you're almost like the idea is that a lot of the puzzles, like once you get towards Avery and Thomas Chu's sort of like gold. Like it's like, oh, put this crate on here to balance this, and you're like, was this crate here? Was this their crate? Like, because I'm like, fucking, that's impressive. Like, that dolly that it's on, it's just like like who made those ball bearings?
Those
I know,
wheels?
it's fucking, it's amazing. Like well done them.
And on like Scottish slate or whatever. Like
I believe all these puzzles where everything's made of stone and all the stones turn and stuff. But like as in. So many modern-looking crates to solve the solution, and it's the only way to do it.
But yeah, like so. I mean, that's for the most part what I was going to get at. The one other thing that I did want to mention, straight off the bat, is around like the controls being more standard. I know I kind of touched on it in the last episode, but like, reload is on square. Where it should be, and stuff like that. But you also get the little Call of Duty style cross when you actually hit something when you're shooting at it. And you, as far as I can remember, you don't get that in the other games. No. So you actually get some feedback from when you hit stuff.
Actual video game, important. Yeah, video game feedback where you're like, everyone just knows it's just like that is just the alignment that it should be.
Exactly. It's a bit more standardized, but because you've got more open areas and you are fighting across longer distances. Being able to get some kind of confirmation that you have actually hit that collection of 4 pixels you see poking up out of a wall half a mile away is really, really good. But not only that, unlike the other ones, there's like aim assist modes in this. So like you can just snap to your target and stuff like that. So like those are all really, really good quality of life things that it took them 4 games to implement. But you know, finally got there. So yeah, like I when I played it originally, I was just like, well, that happened. That's capped everything off. Cool, fine, done. Never see you again. And this time around, going back and playing it like as its own thing. You know, there was a bit of a gap between playing the other ones and this. And yeah, I found myself a little bit more. I warmed to it a little bit.
Cool.
So much scree and sliding.
Oh my
so
God.
much sliding.
I don't understand. Like no, I will keep that for the Lost Legacy. There is a part in the Lost Legacy that is like, wow, we've gone, we jumped the shark on the scree. Like it's like. Fee, have you notes or anything at all on this one? Did you play anything at all, or just watch Rich?
No, I watched a bit, and I think it did just feel more like a story from the off.
Yeah.
Absolutely booting
like
the
they were
podcast halfway across the room there. So sorry about that noise, guys.
They were like, yeah, you're here for the characters. You're not just here for the shooting and the and stuff.
It felt a bit more well-rounded as an entertainment thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're making the most of like nicer graphics and things like that. It definitely looks like it plays an awful lot like the Lost Legacy 2.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. Like with you playing that one first, almost out separately, so it'll be really good to understand, like how that felt, like as its own little thing. So for you personally,
the winch on the Jeep as well. That's an interesting little wrinkle that is kind of like it's not necessarily a huge mechanic, but I appreciate the fact that they put it in and like sure the lighting's a bit wonky on the cable, but like physics wise and mechanics wise of you having to loop it around a tree and stuff like that,
that's fun.
like it works. They did it, and then it was kind of interesting seeing like Lost Legacy how they kind of build on giving you some of those tools, like in Uncharted 1, 2 and 3 I never really felt like you had many tools. Why am I saying tools weird? Tools. But like, yeah, you didn't. You had guns and grenades, really, didn't you? And occasionally a torch. Whereas at least in this one, it feels like you have like not necessarily gadgets, but like there's stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely a
tools of the trade.
Yeah. Of being a thief and a crook and a shithouse.
You are more of a thief in this one as well, aren't you? Like,
well,
it's a bit more
I get
leaning into that angle.
Yeah, I get the impression that I think they could quite easily. By I don't know, Uncharted.
Salvager is what you become.
That's your legit trade.
That's
isn't
your
it?
legal
But like,
job.
considering how the game's played, I think they could have been well within their rights to get to Uncharted 2 or into 3 and go, you know what, he's just a mercenary. We'll call him a mercenary, or like,
body count alone. That's what I would have assumed he was.
But then by this one, I think they've decided a lane. Like they've picked a lane.
Yeah.
And rather than Indiana Jones being an archaeologist, Lara Croft being an archaeologist, they've just gone, you know what? We're not comfortable calling him a mercenary. He's definitely not an archaeologist. What's kind of partway between the two? Thief.
Yeah.
He's a thief. We'll call him a thief.
Sly Cooper. He's the Sly Cooper of the piece. That's what you know. Yeah. So, how did you feel about the flashback levels, episodes, chapters where you... And that made it sound like it was a loaded question. It wasn't meant to be, but it was almost just like, that is it. Did you enjoy those where you kind of go back with Sam and learn a lot more about the back story of the Drake brothers or not?
So this is possibly one of the bits when I was kind of alluding to it being a little bit self-indulgent. I think this is a good example of it. And like, if you take Sam out of the equation, you never have to have those levels. I don't think. Like, they're good for the exposition of explaining their relationship and going into that, but like it kind of felt like you had to do that because you have never once alluded to him in any of the other games. So like, if you had this in mind from the start, which they definitely didn't, then you would at least be able to seed some of that stuff. And like we were saying at the start of the last episode about the hard left turns some of those plots made, and how at least in Uncharted 1 it didn't really feel earned because they never seemed to build to it or allude to it. This felt like that on a much bigger scale. So like those flashback, those flashback levels are useful. They serve a purpose. They, functionally they work. The interactions are always, engaging, I guess. But to me, they kind of point to a little bit of a narrative misstep. I hesitate to say failing, but I can't think of a better word.
Yeah, it felt like I was playing like a supermassive game at that point when they were kind of going on almost like
I get that.
Until Dawn Quarry sort of thing when you maybe creeping around the person's house is all it felt like they were just extended. Like I was talking about in the previous podcast with Uncharted 3, they almost extended cinematics where you're jumping around but you are interacting, but all it's really doing is to sort of sell you the story.
It's a narrative purpose, isn't it, rather than gameplay.
I didn't hate them either. Just I just feel like they they do slow the game down quite a bit. And when you were speaking about that, that's why I was wondering, maybe poke the bear and see if that's what you were referring to. But is this one of my favourite video games that I've ever played? I think it might be.
Oh, really?
I think I feel the same way that you guys felt about Indiana Jones. I find it hard to quantify why that is. Was I as thrilled as I was necessarily like set piece wise from 2 and 3? Maybe not. Do I understand it has lots of foibles, as you explained as well? Yes. Was I completely sucked in and just engrossed? Yeah, really. That is I don't know what it was, but yeah, for 15 hours of gameplay, I was so interested in what I was doing. Like I was so in the moment with this game. It just, I don't know. Like I said, pirates times 10,000, but it just. Let's start with the locations, for example. Like you said about Scotland and the game feeling a bit slow, but just wandering through that sort of purple heather and climbing on the rough rocks around, the Scottish Highlands and stuff. And oh god, it just looks so good. It just looks good, and it plays so well comparative all the way back to Uncharted 1 when we talk about how the shit camera angles and shit jeans and stuff. You just feel so much more grounded in this. Like all the supernatural bullshit is gone, and it's just, you're there just enjoying what. Yes, it's still unbelievable, the falls and the thrills and spills and shotguns that every people taking this game, but at the same time, it's just a hell of a lot more grounded than what it once was. And the set pieces are still kind of there. Like, fuck the Madagascar like jeep chase, for example, like where like you end up sort of skiing on water while you're getting carried along on and it just I know it's a bit dumb fun, but it just felt so amazing. And you get to the end of that, and the animation of the Madagascan dock workers, where they're all just looking like, what the fuck's just happened? This fucking ATV just flipped over, and these two guys are walking away congratulating each other, and they're just like, that's my fucking day ruined, mate. But they put that in the game. You can see that in the animation, the cutscene, where they're all like, what the fuck is this? That's my day. It just it feels like they think of everything. And I'm not a massive fan of Sam necessarily, and I think that obviously they write it that way as well. You're meant to feel like he's a bit of a sort of slick Rick, sort of bit of a slimy kind of fellow, and you never know what he's going to do next and stuff. And I think that's obviously a portrayal of the character and stuff. And the way they take that story, without giving spoilers, I wasn't necessarily a fan of. I kind of felt like I telegraphed it from the start. There's something was up with that. But it wasn't horrendous either. I even liked, to an extent, and again, spoke about in the last podcast, that all the villains from the first 3 films, effectively, yeah, sorry, I've had 4 beers now. First 3 games, I couldn't, what Lazarevich walks past me in the street, couldn't give a shit, whereas like Rafe and Nadine, and certainly definitely Nadine, she's very memorable, and the way she kicks, Nate's ass in the fucking in Italy. Oh my god, it's so good. Like, it's brilliant fight scene. And that's where you kind of like his selling of the no, don't throw it out the window kind of sort of situation kind of thing. That is, like that works so well against her just being, will you never shut the fuck up? I'm trying to beat you up like senseless, and you're just so fucking annoying. And Rafe, yeah, he whilst he's certainly still not gonna be the Kefkas of all the villains of all time and things like that. I don't mind him. I almost kind of get his motivation way more than anyone else because it's so just human. Like, it's just like he just wants the gold, and he becomes obsessed with it, and so does Sam. And Sam's a villain of the piece almost in a way, is that, in the way that he's played too. Like, isn't because he becomes obsessed with the idea of it, and that plays off so well against each other, and sort of Nate's there just in the middle, kind of like negotiating that really. And I just think that works really, really well. And again, I'm not trying to claim it's the best story ever written, but for being compelled for 15 hours and never feeling like I was ever bored by that. Certainly, it sounds like you maybe got to a few parts where it was like, okay, yeah, it slowed down a bit too much for me. I don't think it necessarily got to that point. I was worried when I went to this and saw it was double what all the rest of the Uncharted were. I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to like this because it's double the amount. And actually, I felt the same sort of propulsiveness. Sorry, that's probably a bit strong, but certainly levels of the propulsiveness I got from Uncharted 2, where everything felt integrated, and that might be because the gameplay felt so good as well. Like that stealth, having more stealth mechanics, and just being more quality of life for me as a player. That it felt easier to play, so therefore I didn't mind that there was more of it as well.
Yeah,
I think you can definitely spot the evolution. Like Uncharted 4 feels more modern. And like, I know that sounds really painfully obvious and stupid because it was made that much later. But like, especially going back through and playing bits of the original Nathan Drake collection, I think it's really noticeable, like how much Uncharted 4 modernizes the gameplay.
Yeah, I felt like, and you made the point before about the Jeep opening things up, and Jeeps can do anything apparently in this game, but just sort of like, but just adding those little things, like you said, the winch and the mud, and you just, it's a video game sort of thing where you're like, oh, there's this muddy hill, what do I need to do next? And I've got this 4x4, they've been talking about it. Nate was saying to Sully, you really want that 4x4, and it's very telegraphed, I would say, that is in it, and not saying that from necessarily a negative point of view. I could probably see everything that was about to happen, because I've played so many video games, seen so many movies and stuff. But all the tropes, all the let's do it one last time for the family, all those things, they're all well-worn tropes for a reason, because they work really well. And if you do it really well, then it doesn't matter to me really necessarily. Like, I don't care if it's the same thing necessarily, or a variation on a theme, as long as it's really well prepared. And going back to that sort of like kind of Hitman, Mission Impossible-esque scene where they're kind of planning on stealing, the St. Dismas cross in Italy and things. The interactions between Sam and Sully, who obviously hate each other at that point, and Nate in between them as well. And yeah, I don't want to say it's glorious or anything, but it works really well for me personally. And I think this is one of these subjective things where I'm like, yeah, okay, I know fine well it's not the best video game that I've probably ever played mechanically or story-wise and stuff, but I really enjoyed myself for a long period of time during this game.
But also I think that Italy section, or at least large parts of it, are making good on the kind of section they threatened to make in 1 and 2 and 3, because it feels like the kind of thing that, say, in Uncharted 2, if they had something like that Italy bit, it would have been a cutscene, and then you would be playing the escape rather than actually doing the poncing around the the main room at an auction and all that kind of stuff. I
noted during that part of the game there was it sounds like such a stupid fucking note, but like even just like the I play on the PlayStation 4, like the billowing of the shirts around cuffs and things like that. It was just so much more everything was just so much more vibrant and fluid, and everything just looked sensational. Sounds great, and yeah, like I say, when I got to Scotland, I understand that it kind of does during the game at certain bits, when you're kind of like just going through Libertalia, the like island again and things like that. I can kind of get where you're like, oh, you could have cut 2 hours out of this game. Don't get me wrong, but it just looks brilliant the entire way through. That is, so it never necessarily gets to that point where you're like, oh god, like like this again, And just to go back to the Elena conversation, this is where like I was like, like, and I know she's written that way in this game as well. She kind of becomes a bit of a sort of, like the hero, the angel and things like that on Drake's shoulder, but almost early on as well, that her and Drake, and this is where they get the juxtaposition with the murderous side of them from previously, but they're so saccharine and so cute, so fucking cute playing Crash Bandicoot at the start or whatever, and I'm like, I'm just there for it. I don't, what I mean? Like, it's in the world's so dark and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, it's so nice that they're just sat there playing a fucking PlayStation 1 game or whatever, then it just, yeah, and even Nate, for all these killer tendencies that he has and kill more people than fucking Rambo and Terminator combined, but it's just like when he's rolling around his attic at the start being a kid and like with his gun and shooting things, and that's your tutorial about how to use a gun again and stuff, you're like, yeah, I know that they have just got me hook, line and sinker with this. Like, I'm aware of what they're doing, and I'm like, I don't care, pull me in, it's fine, whatever. Pull me under all the sugar gun drops of this game. Yeah, it's not a perfect game, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it was. I was really enthralled for a long time with it. So
nice.
Yeah. Should we give it a score?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, cool. Same timesies like last timesies.
Yep.
Cool. 1, 2, 3,
9,
10.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen, though, didn't we?
But did we though? I think.
Yeah, of course we did.
Oh, I don't know. I just swallowed. I was like, oh. I'm giving a 10. I'm like, I feel like being sick. Like, as in, because I don't like giving 10s, because it's just like, and certainly not for games that are really well known, like, or like, the games that
are,
Critical
Darling.
Yeah,
gets a 10.
exactly. I know. It just feels like so cheesy and shit, doesn't it? But like, like this doesn't feel like Hotline Miami 10, like, like, but I just can't ignore how I felt about it, and I wasn't in love, but yeah, it was really, really fun. So yeah, and it made me really want to play the Lost Legacy within like seconds. Like, there was a period of time where I went through Uncharted. So when I say I played these all back to back, I kind of played Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2 probably in August, I think it was, actually, and then I kind of had a bit of a break, and then I hit Uncharted 3, 4 and Lost Legacy within like a 9-day period. Like, it was just like like, as in, just because I felt that way about them. So
all right, well, I've put it in as a 10 and we can argue about it in the order.
Well, we know it's 9.5, and we always round up and but yeah, I mean, we've got the tantalizing prospect of Indiana Jones and Nathan Drake duking it out in a 10 out of 10 section. So yeah, no, yeah, that will be fun. That will be fun to talk about. So right, okay, Lost Legacy. I'm gonna have to do that thing where I told you, like, I've written too many notes. I'm gonna have to do a flipsies, and like, I've created a system around my notepad. So standalone expansion, like we intimated at the start, 2017, and this is different directors and different writers from Uncharted 4 as well. So, but you get the same engine and the same gameplay, and obviously is tied to it. And we've alluded to this at the start of the podcast, but yeah, 6 hours long ish, so kind of towards a full game ish. So the plot: Chloe Fraser searching for the legendary tusk of Ganesh. Ganesh, even, sorry. Ganesh is a different thing. Ganesh is chocolate, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ganesh, sorry. So yeah, a lot of Hindu, I guess, lore in this one, and you're kind of set mostly in the Indian Western Ghats. There is a little bit of a city gameplay at the start. She hires mercenary Nadine Ross from the previous game as her muscle, effectively, to help fight against a group of insurgents who are being led by a dude called Asav, who kind of just has a stick up his ass about being a supremacist, basically. With sort of superior race bullshit, which at least is something as a motive, whether it's right or wrong. Fiona, I'm looking at you then to kick us off with this one, as it was the first one that you played in the series, and how about it? Let us know what you think about this one.
Yeah, it was. That was a while ago, like a long time ago.
Oh.
So, not too long after it came out, I guess. So I've done a bit of a refresher, but not kind of replayed the entire game. So I've been interested to see kind of what stuck in my memory and what didn't. I think plot-wise, I've got some of the issues that I was having with that first Uncharted game. Like, I'm not really sure what's going on. So
that is an issue.
I got
that is a big issue.
I thought what was good was I really got Chloe Fraser and her, like, there's a lot of stuff about why she's looking for that tusk, and it's all linked to like her father and his kind of quest to find it too. But you're just dumped into the middle of this city at the start of the game, which is in some kind of civil unrest, and there's like almost like curfews and like militias dragging people off the streets, and you're having to dodge them, and it's all very like unsafe. I'm like, has India had like a recent civil, like what is happening?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? How does it relate to what I'm doing? And it's not really clear for ages what's going on, and I can't remember exactly at what point you do twig that this guy who's the baddie wants to use this. So there's a bit quite early on where you kind of come across him in the city still, and he does a bit of like villain scenery chewing and like, oh, I'll get that tusk and all that sort of stuff. And no, you won't. With better dialogue than that, but that's kind of the short version.
I don't think the dialogue is that much better than that, to be fair. As I know it.
But he doesn't really say why. It's just, once again, it's that kind of classic Uncharted thing of like, well, these guys are slightly more attractively rendered and you're playing as them, therefore they're the ones you should root for to get this thing.
I don't know, Asaf's a bit of a... For me personally...
He's
a bit of a hottie kind of in a way. Like, to start off with, I was initially interested in him because he was,
me.
But he's in like,
incentive.
but he had that sort of, like that nerd alert sort of situation. Kind of like, as in, he just seemed like he was more interesting necessarily than, and then that kind of dies off for me personally a lot towards the end.
I think I assumed he was like another archaeologist at the start, just with a load of heavies, and then it definitely turns out that he is in fact trying to stage some kind of coup or ignite a civil war or something under the symbol of this tusk. And it's where did that?
I think
when did we know that? When did this come up?
Yeah, towards the end, the insinuation is that he kind of hates anybody that isn't a pure Hindu like sort of person, and it was just odd. It did feel like quite heavy, like out of where it's humble beginnings for a villain, if you can have them.
Yeah, but I think it's a really interesting start. I think what I did like about it, and what I remember liking about it the first time around, is the characters are really engaging. So you've got these two really interesting women, neither of whom I'd say are particularly nice people, which again I quite like, because I think it just shows people have actually paid some attention. It's not it's not just some random love interest from another story that they've not bothered to flesh out. They both have their own motivations and quirks and things that are kind of unpleasant or that they're working through, and they have quite a good bounce off each other as well, because Nadine's quite quite like matter of fact and pragmatic and like, let's just get this job done. And obviously Chloe's a bit more like, someone use the word suave, but kind of like a bit more like making the jokes and
she's a bit more James Bondy in a way. That's in comparative to.
I would pay a lot of money to see Claudia Black as James Bond. Let's make it happen.
James Blonde.
We can do that. We can make that happen. But yeah, I think their relationship is really interesting, because they're very thrown together at the start for this sort of like monetary purpose, and then they do develop more of a relationship as it goes through, and you do get a lot of dialogue. I'd argue the way it's delivered, not so great sometimes. So like, there's a lot of stuff where you're riding around in a Jeep, and it's this classic video game thing of they're like, let's do some backstory. It's exactly the Mafia.
5.
Yeah. And they'll get in, and there'll be like some stuff where they're poking fun at each other, or rather Chloe's poking fun at Nadine for like sidling up to a sad in a past life, and was it all professional, wink wink kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just about to get in. She's like, oh, tell me more. And then they're about to say something, and then you have to stop the car because there's some people about to shoot you. And then you get back in the car and she's like, so what were we saying?
So what was that again?
Which is good. I was like, oh, this is clever. This is
Yeah.
very clever. What was that again? Oh, you were telling me about a sad. I was like, great. I don't
Yeah.
see this very often. And then they just start from the beginning. And I was like, so
Yeah.
you've not really done what I thought you would do with that, which was smoothly be like, yes. I was at the point where I was telling you why I took up his offer.
Yeah. I think
they
that's
do a
that in
little,
Grand
but
Theft
it's
Auto.
not, yeah. Not
Grand
great.
Theft Auto 4, I remember thinking that was like the first time I saw that kind of not emerging gameplay, emerging conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. I like them. I like that it's female led, so it's like a buddy cop vibe that you don't. I still think you don't get that in a lot of things, even now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would struggle to name.
I couldn't think of one off the top of my head where that's necessarily the case. I know that there was one particular example where, and I don't want to give it away, it's not even a spoiler for the game, but if you spoil the conversation, then you won't have as much fun with it yourself. But there's a conversation, it's a little bit further on, I think, actually, where they have a conversation about catapults and trebuchets, and it's really, really great. Like, it's really cutting. And I was like, fuck, I'm so here for that. Like, it's just like, whilst you're trying to get through a waterfall in a cave somewhere, you're like, yeah, no, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the voice acting's great, and like obviously I love Claudia Black. Like
I've not noticed.
She's done really cool, but like I don't know. I watched Farscape when I was younger and stuff.
Yeah.
Like big fan. But like, I think they're both just really great, and I think they make up for what is probably quite a mediocre story otherwise. To be honest,
It's thin.
Yeah, it's thin's the word. The map and where you are is quite thin as well. I don't know how you found it. Because it's on the one hand it's nice and then it's compact.
What do you think, Rich? Is it like?
I think it depends on how on board you were with the Madagascar bit in Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Because
Good point. That's a really good point.
For me, like Uncharted, whenever I think of Uncharted, I do not think of open world stuff. I know I was just sitting here praising the kind of openness of some of the maps, but like you take the Scotland bit, right? You are given freedom to approach a situation, but you are still on a conveyor belt of situations, right? Whereas Madagascar, you can like go within reason a bit more anywhere. So I think if you kind of like that, you've got a lot more to sink your teeth into here. But for me, I think it would be a bit too easy for the pace to come off the gas a little bit, to get a little bit rudderless, to
get lost like I did.
Yeah, and I don't think
Lost Legacy.
It's not like a full blown open world game where there's like side quests,
it's like a hub, isn't it? Like that.
Yeah.
You get through the first part of the city, don't you? And then it opens up to the kind of like where you go. You need to hit these 3 or 4 places you need to go before you move the story on. But there's actually a couple of side quests here that are not forced upon you at all. Like, if you want to spend another 3 or 4 hours doing the game, you can do that, can't you? I remember that.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not like you get much in the way of like icons to guide you or anything like that. You're kind of stumbling on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And if you are into that and you enjoy that, I think you'll get a kick out of this. If you're not and you need that little bit more guidance, then I think it's possibly going to be a bit of swing and a miss.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say I quite liked that. So like what I didn't like was that the map, I thought the way the map works is really good because it's one of the most organic maps I've seen. So like, it just starts off as a really blank map, which is good because I get the impression Chloe flies by the seat of her pants all the time. She's not done a research beforehand and she's just got like a map with a blob on it. And you do the first time, you kind of climb a tower, kind of standard like, and pick out 3 landmarks after a little puzzle that you think are going to be useful. But then when you spot something of interest, she'll stop and like dig it out and be like, I'll just mark this on the map, and then your map will change, or she'll like cross off what you've been to. Yeah. So the map itself, I thought was actually really cool. What I didn't find cool was actually trying to find the places, because you get the map out and you put it away, and you have absolutely no objective markers or anything. And actually the landscape looks quite samey. Yeah, very it's all this, like, it's beautiful, but it's all like, oh, here's a bit of like a rugged, almost like bridge-like structure, and then there's a lot of wetland you're driving through, and whoops, here's a ramp that's completely made out of mud. Enjoy figuring out whether you can Bethesda horse your way up that one or whether you're just going to just crash down again. So yeah, actually finding them, because there's not even a compass. You know, the map's marked like north, south. So I was like, oh, I'm going north. And I was like, put my map away. I don't know where north is anymore.
Yeah.
I had to remember what way my car was pointing on the map to set off in that direction.
I felt I had that problem more in Uncharted 4, actually. Like, as in, like, when round the edge of the Scottish Highlands than I did necessarily in this one. I don't know what that was, but I never really necessarily felt that lost in this one. But I don't know if I maybe just grasped the idea of how it was hubbing around a bit more, or maybe I just played a different difficulty, I don't know. But there was definitely the same thing going on, but I found this one easier than Uncharted 4. Sometimes I kind of got a bit lost in that.
They seem to make more of a point in this one of pointing out, like, oh, we need to go to that fort over near the waterfall, or that fort over near those.
Yes, yeah. When you got to the top of it, you're like, oh, over there, you need to go there now.
Yeah, they clearly, like, in dialogue signpost you.
Yeah.
Whereas in Uncharted 4, I don't recall much besides, like, you're in Madagascar. You need to go to the volcano now.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Crack on, yeah. In terms of, like, I guess the pace of the game then, with it being 6 hours long, how did you feel that worked for you? That is in, because I felt like it did feel a bit concertinaed, where it was just like, you know, in it, probably more positively than negatively, but it was almost like, you know, get going, here we go, here's the story, right, we're gone, and then you did that little hub area, and then it was very much downhill very quickly, lots of lots of downhill skiing.
Yeah, you do it quite a lot anyway, don't you? Yeah, I do remember that from the end. I didn't get right through to the end, but yes. And I think, like, the way the kind of the timing works out, part of me wonders if it could have done with maybe not having such high stakes as, like, trying to stage a coup in India. Like, I don't know, I would have settled for, this is a guy who, I don't know, had a grudge against her father or whatever, and she wants to get the tusk first, ideally to return it to its actual owners, the people of the country she's stealing it from. But I guess that's a bit optimistic. But yeah, I don't know, I just think something about pacing and kind of what the story actually was a little off. It was almost like they were a bit tentative of, you know, do we think there'll be enough traction with these two to justify a full thing by itself? Like you say, it's almost like DLC length, really, for the era that it's come out in.
Yeah, I think it's almost like they were I don't want to say playing it safe, but I think I've just talked myself into a corner.
I know what you mean, though.
But yeah, like I can imagine that, you know, you get the pitch of, oh, hey, we've got these two strong female characters, can we do something that focuses on them? And I can imagine that the reception may have been, okay, well, we'll try it and we'll see what happens. And between that, and I can imagine that Uncharted 4 came out and a bunch of people turned around and said, why don't we have more of the open world stuff? And I can imagine a conversation or two where those two ideas kind of converge and become this. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting point about, like, you probably could have got away with lower stakes for this, and like, like make it more. Well, could you have made it more personal? Don't know, but like, yeah, it does feel like there's a story at work in the background that kind of belongs in a different game.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. It does feel a bit obtuse, sort of like what's happening, like, you know.
Yeah, it would almost, to my mind, make more sense if the kind of, we'll call it a B plot of, you know, the coup, if the B plot was the A plot of Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
You know, to my mind, that would make more sense for, you know, the stakes and how they're dealt with and all that kind of stuff.
Oh man, I love that so much. You put that really, really well.
But then that would make it more like an overt expansion rather than something that would stand on its own. So I kind of see why they wouldn't go down that route, but just for the level of the stakes involved.
And it did stand on its own when I played it. I enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I think this might have been around the time where I was trying to find more stuff with a female lead, because I'd played Mass Effect and was really excited about that. And then you ended up, like, making me play Final Fantasy 15 because you're like, oh, I can't actually find anything with a strong female lead, but, like, I don't know, here's a very pretty boy on the front of this. But it just, it really wasn't common. I still don't think it is. I still think it's underserved. I think there's quite a few things come out recently that are on my list to look at. I can't remember what it's called. There's one that's like a bit of a more narrative thing with two women who are authors that I've seen.
Split fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more stuff these days, I think, but it just didn't feel like the ones that you saw plastered around the place with big adverts had a woman in charge.
Yeah.
Let alone two, and it was all about them.
I'll tell you what, can I just nick one of your notes as well that I've just spotted over your shoulder? Because you've got you've got lock picking in this as well.
Oh, me too.
But like, so not only is it's a tiny thing, right? But like small incidental detail has a gameplay purpose, even though it is a little bit superficial. But I think that serves a really important difference of making Chloe feel like a different character to play to Nathan Drake.
Yes.
Like functionally for running around, jumping, throwing grappling hooks, sliding down scree, all that kind of stuff. Like it's basically the same, right? I'm reasonably sure she moves at the same pace and all that stuff. So yeah, having the lockpicking in there does make her feel slightly different. But I guess kind of to what you were saying about having these female lead characters and stuff like that, I do wonder if in the cold light of day, you could have gone further and you could have made her play slightly different. But on the flip side, for 2-3 games, she's keeping pace with him all the time anyway, so it stands to reason.
It makes sense that she would be the exact same sort of,
Yeah, so I see how you could almost run out of ways to differentiate her.
Yeah. My note about the lockpicking was not as in-depth or as articulate. Mine was almost just like, what did we fucking do before analog sticks for picking locks? Like, because all we ever do is rotate the analog stick. When everyone's got drift, everyone's doing fucking lockpicking with these analog sticks, just sort of like rolling them round. And like, I can't, honestly, I was thinking about Sleeping Dogs, where you kind of do like a weird sort of radio lock. Everywhere is just lock picking with these analog sticks. Like,
Skyrim's my favourite one still, because you get both sides of it. But I thought this one was quite a good, because the game's not about. It's not really a stealth game. You can stealth, and that's nice because the stealth works. But like, it's not about that. So it's good that the locks are kind of like quick, but you get enough of that like lock picky action to be like, yeah, I'm picking a lock.
Bit of an aside, but I think I was playing, I think it was the original Splinter Cell on my PC the other day, and it was old enough that...
Because you're a badass, that's why.
Well, no, it was old enough that it didn't have, like, controller support for analog sticks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for picking locks, I'm reasonably sure you had to use the left and right movement buttons on your keyboards to switch between pins on the tumbler, and then just tap up until it popped, and then you switch to the next one. So it's, like, nowhere near as entertaining as a Skyrim or similar, but it was a reasonably close approximation.
Cool. Speaking of tools and things that were useful, quality of life stuff in this, even compared to Uncharted 4 itself, was something that I was like, this is the best the series has ever been.
Oh, was there a big change? Because I definitely thought it was quite similar to the bits I'd seen for like tagging your enemies and stuff like that I really loved. Is it a step up?
So in a tool sense, like you get silenced pistols for the first time,
they're good.
which is just like,
was that not in Uncharted 4?
No, not that I noted.
Cool.
No,
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I didn't. I mean, because you kind of got the crates, didn't you? You go to the crates and you get the good guns. That is in, you do the lockpick, get the good gun. There's like gold weapons as well, which kind of like sort of like I guess your enhanced weapons, which again I don't think existed before then either.
Although I will say no one told me what they were, and I only realised I had one when you looked at my screen and were like, "Oh, that's a gold thing."
Right. So this was an hour before we started recording this.
No,
so
I definitely did my homework way in advance of this podcast.
No, but me noticing the gold weapon. Me noticing the gold weapon.
Far too in advance for this fucking podcast.
Me noticing the gold weapon was an hour before this podcast. But it was a silence pistol, and because you have the snap to enemy function turned on,
I was playing it on easy this time,
And I swear that when it was the silence pistol, I don't know if it was because it was a silence pistol or because it was a gold weapon. When it was snapping to enemies, it was snapping so it could get headshots.
Yeah.
Whereas when it was when it was a white standard weapon, I'm reasonably sure it wasn't.
Yeah, there's certain attributes.
I think there might be something like that at work there that just means that it's slightly like. I guess my point is that like even if you're playing it without those functions turned on, there will be improved attributes. But I think they have worked out a way that even if you are playing with those like little accessibility things, they still translate.
Yeah, that's cool. The winch you spoke about before, how much fun that is. Well, this one self-retracts, so it's even better. The joke about there being no crates, like, is in, it's almost like, oh yeah, we don't fucking use crates around here, like, you know,
And
like,
Sam
There's
just
some
popping
little-
up.
yeah, good asides, yeah.
And then you get previous characters from previous games kind of going, oh yeah, no, I've got a crate for you, and you're like, oh, you fucker, I bet you do. So, and I guess at that point as well, and it's not the character who comes back into it, but also I'm gonna open a beer. So I'm gonna open a cardboard box of beer. We're drinking for the first time in a little while. I'm drinking significantly more than everyone else, it seems. So yeah, when that character pops back up, I do feel like there's not a pace change to slow down, but almost a bit of a, did we need to do this? Because the two main characters, I was enjoying them enough anyway. Is this just we kind of have to tie it back to it being the main series? So here's somebody you've seen before, Jazz Hands. And that's when they kind of almost reverted back to, for about half an hour, like lots of scree falling, like, is in, it's like, it kind of felt like it fell back on itself, and almost like the nervousness you spoke about with the very first game almost came through again, where it was like, this is too different. And it wasn't even that different, but this is too different from what we've done previously. Let's bring in half an hour's worth of what you've seen before. And that kind of, that almost threw me again. I'm still, apart from Uncharted 4, still waiting for all the rest of the games to have landed it better. That said, the final sequence, the final chapter of this game is rollicking good fun. Like, is it? Again,
I remember it really escalating.
It really, to Rich's point of we get to the point where we're like, it feels like quite a personal story, and to your point, Fee, about almost like Chloe's dad and Nadine's control of what her controllables and stuff, and then all of a sudden we're back on the main plot's going on, and the main plot's shit, but we've got to go deal with it. Like, there's a fucking bomb going off over here, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just that, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, we need to go and save the world. Like, is in very quickly. Like, it's in, just the step change between those personal stories and that, it is, it's a bit striking. So, but the actual mechanics of doing that are really fun. Like, it's in, that last 15-20 minutes, maybe even half an hour, just doesn't let up. And it's classic Uncharted 2 for this, where you kind of get that sort of set piece where it just all seamlessly rolls into each other, and everyone's just in sync about the chaos they're about to unfold upon each other and things. But then also, right at the end, I feel like it lets itself down, because you get to that Asav situation where he, like I said, I was very interested in his story at the start, and kind of thought that it might be something that I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, I don't agree with what he's doing, but I at least understand that he's got a pivot that he's working around. And then he just becomes this kind of Mr. X character towards the end, that he's just almost like, oh, now I'm the big brute, don't get to my bomb, sort of thing. And it's like, really? That, I felt like we'd grown so much over the last sort of 6 hours with Nadine and Chloe, and then we kind of get to this character where he's just a big brute that they've just got to beat down, basically. And it's like, it just felt like really lazy, sort of the last 5-10 minutes. So that last 2 hours, if you will, that I've just spaffed out my mouth. That is in, that he just, there's ups and downs. There's real highs, and there's not necessarily low lows, but there's almost like, could have been better.
I mean, there's that old adage about, if you can't end it well, end it quick. and I wonder if perhaps that might have been a factor.
Yeah,
maybe. You got anything else to say, for you?
No, I was just thinking that I didn't remember that at all.
But it says a lot, though.
But this is the thing, like, as I've been replaying it, like, I haven't got quite to the end. I've got a fair way through it this time, but like, the bits that I remembered anyway and really came back strongly as soon as I started off in different bits were, like, some of the puzzles, which are quite good. Again, like, they're really visually nice. They're a bit different. there's like escalation in them. And I think, you know, the landscape was beautiful. I remembered that I didn't get on with the Jeep because it doesn't really handle that well. Although I always say that, so maybe the problem's me. But it doesn't.
You've really not enjoyed the vehicles. I mean, don't get me wrong, the fucking jet skis at the start, fair enough. But
it's
like,
not terrible, the Jeep, but it is a bit.
The Jeep's okay. I think I enjoyed a lot of the vehicle work in.
I enjoyed it. It's very generous about it, actually. So, like, it's not like you're going to hit a rock, flip over, and get stuck or explode.
Yeah, you're
always going to be okay. So you can just hurl it around things. But it wasn't always easy to find where the Jeep was meant to be going. Like, there's some little hidden paths and things. But, you know, I remember that kind of stuff. I remembered the vibe between the two of them. I remembered the very visual stuff at the start. You know, that city, it surprised me how quickly I was through that. Because in my head there was quite a lot of that because it was so like neon and dark and the contrast, and it was, you know,
there's a lot of parkour sort of situation, wasn't it? Once you get going past
wasn't
that
a single
bit,
sign she saw that she wouldn't hang off.
Like,
don't know what the people in those flats thought was going on.
But what's great is then you also get they do that, but then you get the Nadine going, where the fuck are you going?
Like, it's what I really liked about, you know, she's so much more pragmatic, whereas you get the sense that, you know, Chloe grew up on, like, you know, tales of daring do, and that's why she's gone down this path. But but I just don't really remember the bad guy at the end and like what the conclusion was. Apart from, well, I guess they won. I guess they got it. I guess it's all fine.
Probably what makes it an Uncharted game.
Yeah. If there's one thing we've learned over 5 Uncharted is,
and that's why I'm really annoyed, because he has it in himself. He has that, you know how they say, I guess people out there, in my mind, that, you know, that beliefs, you know, like really somebody who has a belief that it can't be broken is more dangerous than, you know, anything else.
He's a zealot, isn't he? I guess by the end. But again, it's not really clear at the start. And
no.
You don't have so much interaction with him while you're just pootling around looking at the ruins and things. And
that's why, I do think that he had potential to be the best villain of the entire series, and it still might well be because the rest of them are so weak. But just, you know,
but I think that's the kind of thing that I was trying to
don't mind Rafe.
I was trying to get at when I said about the kind of open bit killing the pace potentially, because like, say Borderlands 2, right? That's a convenient example. Handsome Jack is harassing you over the radio constantly, and I mean, like, that's basically open world, isn't it? And but yet there he is. He's kind of just constantly on at you, so you don't see him. You don't necessarily interact directly with him, but he's a constant presence.
Yeah, it's
whereas,
not Bioshock here either.
Exactly. Whereas in this, he's at the start, he's at the end, and I would struggle to tell you.
Maybe I think that's mean.
I would struggle to tell you when he pops up in the middle.
No.
And I think that's possibly where you start to get some of those problems.
Yeah, I do. I know you've already given Chloe her flowers, but I was kind of sort of being a bit, oh well, Elena's great too, but like, I do think that this is where, and I think that now I feel a bit stronger about the point about the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft sort of comparison. She's a bit more preppy, a bit more happy-go-lucky in this one, because you've got Nadine kind of being so sort of staunch in her sort of ways, that actually Chloe ends up being a bit more the Drake of the piece in a way that, but she plays all of that so well. She's probably a bit more cutting in the earlier games, whereas in this one, she still has that, but she's definitely more thoughtful about her dad and those kind of things, and you can see a well-rounded character across the entire series, and I love that you see this part of her where she's just a bit more, like you say, she does fly by the seat of her pants, but also she's a bit like, you kind of hear it, like, again, this is where the scripting is really good and stuff, like where like something will work in a puzzle and she go, huh, like, it'll be like a positive, huh, like, just like it works really well, and you kind of go, oh, you feel like she's kind of going through some good stuff here almost, like, and I know, again, it's written that way, but the way that like Sam and both Nadine kind of, not that you guys seem to remember, but at the end, like, is in, like Sam and Nadine both say, just let it go, don't worry, we're not here to be the good guys. And Chloe goes, no, we are. The girl in the market kind of thing. And it's just like...
I do remember that bit coming back, actually.
And that's like, and yeah, she can be a bitch and she can be a hero. And that's great. She can be everything. And that works really, really well. And I guess that she does have she's shown to have more character than Elena across the series, I think. Whereas Elena sort of is a bit more like the angel on Drake's shoulder. Maybe not as much range as Chloe does, and that might be why, certainly, I probably gravitate more towards her as a character on the whole, but it took till this game to see all of that for me.
Yeah, and I guess if you played the other ones as well, it's an interesting progression. Because I think having seen more now of Uncharted 2, like, it is interesting because, like you say, she is like sharper and a bit more on the wrong side of morally grey.
She's the one that tells them to leave Jeff behind. And
Yeah,
stuff
she
like
does.
that,
She does literally at one point be like, "You could shoot this guy because he's slowing you down." But I like that she hasn't really lost all the edges. I think it's something that I hate in kind of all forms of media, is that thing where you've got a good baddie and people really, which is not really badly, but like, you've got a good morally grey character and people really latch onto them. So then in future films or books or whatever, they'll go on a little bit of a redemption arc. And I think sometimes it gets taken too far and the snap of the character gets taken out because, they can't have, like, I don't know, they're just not as, they're a bit toothless once they're like on the good side. And I think she's still got that like witty spark and still rubbing people up the wrong way a little bit for fun and teasing people and that, but she does have that more redeeming quality by the end of this, and I think you see in Uncharted.
I would have. Sorry, Rich.
No, I was just going to say, like, you put it like that, it does sound like she might be the character in the entire series that has the strongest bit of character development.
That's what you give to Claudia fucking Black, isn't it?
Well,
Who can handle this weight? The majestic Claudia.
Well, for sure, but you're just saying about what she's like in Uncharted 2, and then you compare it to Lost Legacy and stuff like that. I think you've got a really good point there. And I would, I mean, they all change. Of course they do, because apart from maybe Elena. But, like...
sorry, Elena, I feel like I've really done a dirty.
I feel like, okay, I'm going to have to stop this right now, because I feel like, okay, you were saying that Chloe's still, like, she's still got snap and stuff, but but you see a change from, and we're going back to the previous podcast, but Uncharted 2, she's, sort of like, leaving for dead. And then Uncharted 3, she's saving Charlie Cutter, like, oh no, let's not leave no man behind kind of thing. She really has. And she's the person who's helping you in London right at the start. And she kind of has a bit more of a, I'm more of a hero situation. And in this one, she's definitely the hero of the piece.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I think she's still witty and strong as a character. But I think she does come round to being less snappy than what she is. So therefore, more development. But, I think she's warmer than what she was.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm.
But like, she's not. I don't know. She's not just. I think what I mean is
Elena
she's
bashing's okay.
But I think like Chloe's changed.
I'm a massive sap. I just like when Elena and Drake are happy and playing PlayStation at home.
That is a very cute scene. I'll give it that. And you don't see that a lot either, do you? Like that kind of little character moment that's just a nice thing that's relatable for once. It's not somebody hanging off a sheer cliff face like we all do in our exercise regimes, just waving a pistol around. It is something that is a bit more human.
And even the way that the Drakes work out in the end, isn't it wonderful that we live on a fucking beach in this wonderful hut and we're just, treasure hunters and we can do whatever we want and, we've eventually made enough money to be absolutely fine. We've got a lovely daughter, etc., etc. Like, okay, well done you, bully. But like at the same time, like, as in, I still feel pretty good for them. Drake's a massive murderer, and so is Elena to an extent. It's just like, like, as in, but like, I genuinely feel like they're, in the end, okay people, like, and that's the thing. I just want to go to my grave as being an okay person. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I kind of feel about Elena.
But I guess my point is that the series has always tried to portray those two as okay people.
Yeah.
Whereas Chloe, that's not necessarily the case.
You're right. Yeah. And I'm not trying to go to like great depths to sort of say that, but I was just like, I felt there was a lot of bashing going on. I was like, oh god, okay, fair enough, that's fine, whatever.
It's comparative bashing though. I think if it had just been Elena, I'd be like, oh fine, whatever.
I mean, that's so. If you were going to rank the three female leads, even when you don't even play as, you only really play as Chloe. yeah, Nadine's second and Elaine's third. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's just not that much of a third.
Yeah.
If that makes sense for me. Should we give this one a score? Because we we got into some great conversation there, but in terms of finishing this game off, then this kind of gives me a sort of. I thought about this again last night in a position of where I would put it in the series, quite definitively actually in the end. So, 1, 2, 3, 9.
7.
Oh my!
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
that was 2 7s to 1 9.
Yeah, that's fine. We're all here to make a collective decision. I thought this was the second best game of the series. I think all the quality of life stuff. I'm explaining myself because I'm the one that's out from everyone here, but I thought all the quality of life stuff. I don't think that the story is any worse than any of the rest of them because they're all kind of bang average, apart from Uncharted, for me personally. And yeah, I think the gameplay is great, and yeah, I love the characters and everything. So just because it's a little bit shorter and it's a little bit off kilter with where it's going story wise, don't think it's any worse than anything else that's been offered before.
Or should we put it in 8 then? Because that's in the middle.
I'm not saying we've changed the score. That was just me quantifying.
No, I'm happy with an 8 because I've not scored a lot of the other ones because I've not played them. But I think from what I've seen, I would be placing it quite highly out of the other ones as well.
Yeah. Where does that leave all the scores after all the toing and throwing? Just
right. Hang on a second.
Be a nice little sort of ending point, just kind of.
Yeah. So as soon as the flipping
the Google sheet sorts
decides
itself
to play
out.
ball. So OG Uncharted in at 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
It walked so the others could slide down screen.
Actually, that's another question about genes, but we can leave that for another podcast.
Another one about genes. Yeah.
Uncharted 2, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Uncharted 3, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Uncharted Lost Legacy, 8 out of 10. Uncharted 4, 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Oh,
Fair.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with all those scores.
I think they are pretty solid games, and I think although we talked a lot about story and stuff and been quite harsh on some of that, I think actually like that they're an adventure game at heart, aren't they? So the story is what will make it stand out in your memory afterwards, but it's not your main reason for playing the game, is it? Really?
I think. I mean, we're what, coming up on an hour 20 again. So call, hang on. Call that the better part of 3 hours. And I think for the most part, like the bulk of the conversation has been around story and character stuff, right? And I think it is to the series' credit that it gives you enough to be able to talk about it for that long and in that level of detail. And you want more from it. Like you know how close, like even with when it's hovering at a 5 out of 10, you know how close it is to being really, really, really good.
Yeah.
So I think there is a backhanded compliment in the amount that we've talked about it.
I mean, kind of looking at those scores, as we said, when we did our very first review for the podcast, and we were joking around about arbitrary scores and sort of saying it's a silly thing to do and they don't mean anything, but it's almost, it's like 7.8, so call it an 8 out of 10 for the entire series. And that feels about right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? After 3 hours of conversation and all the ups and downs, the character beats and everything that we've had, that feels about the right place, I think, for it. So that's,
I think so.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to leave it. So we really hope you've enjoyed our deep dive into the series. If you have enjoyed it, let us know. If you enjoy having Fiona on the podcast, double the listens again, that'd be great. We're okay with that. I'm sure Fiona is too. And thank you very, very much for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.